Thank you everyone for joining our talk tonight. It is about introducing the IBCS standards for better business reporting. And we are honored to have Colin Wu to give us this talk based on his own experience and practical knowledge. So I will hand it over to you, Colin, just to give a brief introduction of yourself, and you can share your screen from now. Thank you.
Hello. So before we dive into the agenda, I'll welcome everyone again and I hope you all had relaxed holidays. And most importantly, I hope you are coping well with the shock of being back to work or being back to school. So I'm a short introduction of myself. I'm Colin. I'm the manager of the performance and insights team in a public sector company in Wellington. So my team produces reports and analysis using both operational and financial data for leadership team. Previously, I was the financial planning analysis manager for the American IT company Dell for its Greater China region and Asia Pacific region for about 6 years. And then I was the finance controller for its internet industry business unit. I also worked for some other global companies like Ericsson, Philips, Johnson & Johnson, and Maersk Logistics. Before I go to the agenda, let's set up the expectation again. It's not a formal training. It's more awareness building session to let you know the best practice in the world of business reporting for your future learning. Okay, I'll share my screen now. Okay. Can you all see my screen? Okay, cool. We have a relatively simple agenda, but we actually have quite dense content due to the complex nature of business reporting. So we're going to talk about why is IBCS, what is IBCS, and how it helps. Sorry. So this is a typical workflow to convert a message into visual explanations. So typically, imagine if we have one analytical message, if we have several report producers to produce reports. So if each one using a different reporting application, typically we'll get multiple reports even for the same message. So there is a question, why start? And then we see the challenges. So today with the proliferation of data, a lot of companies are driving for data-informed decision-making. It's critical to be able to effectively produce meaningful reports and be able to quickly understand reports. However, we see the challenges on both the report producer side and the report reader side. For report producers, they spend a lot of time educating the readers on how to read those reports, and they don't understand why the readers don't make efforts to understand those lovely reports they produced, let alone utilize those fancy interaction drill down features. They feel their effort is not appreciated. On the other side, the report readers feel they were tortured with overloaded reports. They have been spending so much time to demystify what those colorful reports mean. Many of them feel that business reportings are so boring. They just hope they could finish as soon as possible so that they can get back to real work. They feel they were underserved. So what's wrong with that? What's wrong in the world of business reporting? The challenges are actually caused by the business reports that are inconsistent, inadequate, and misleading. Okay. Let's see what the data visualization guru, Professor Edward Tufte, says about graphical excellence. So he says graphical excellence is that which gives the viewer the greatest number of ideas in the shortest time with the least ink in the smallest space. Okay, greatest ideas in the shortest time with least ink in the smallest space. How to achieve that? Firstly, we need to show data, not the design, not the technical implementation. And we need to show comparison. It's not only about data, we need to see compared with what, at what rate. And often we need to show causality, mechanism, structure, explanation, not just what, but also why and how. We need to show multivariate analysis, not just one dimension. For example, if we are showing the by month sales, we also need to show how it's compared with budget. What is the variance by month? We also need to integrate evidence together. So typically, the default setting, for example, in Excel, data legends is separated with the lines, the columns. So we actually need to combine them together. We need to put the legend together with the lines or columns. Okay, a special term called by Tufte as well. We need to maximize data ink ratio. So that means data carrying, ink carrying data divided by the total ink. We'll see what that means later. And remove charge junk. Charge junk are all those components not carrying information. So the background, the grid, the access. Finally, we need to maximize data density. This is the most controversial topic. So we need to, the data density is measured by, on the page, the number of information divided by the total data. Divided by the total space. And we also need to ensure in the integrity of charts. So we need to avoid the so-called lie factor. So lie factor means the wrong impression depicted from the chart divided by the actual effect from the data. Okay. So how IBS can address the challenges? IBS is a set of de facto standards controlled by IBS Association and contributed by global practicing professionals, aiming to address the aforementioned challenges. It includes 3 categories of rules: semantic, conceptual, and perceptual. The semantic rules are to standardize all the components in reports. Conceptual rules are to organize the ideas to tell meaningful stories. Perceptual rules are to ensure the data visuals are showing the truth of data. So it's about how to avoid lie factor. Okay, the first one, unify. It's actually something learned from musicians and engineers. If we search for business dashboard from Google, we can see we got very different one. Some are quite colorful, some are just black and white. But if we search for sheet music, we can see they are pretty much the same. So any musician in any country can immediately understand the music written in sheet music. If we search for a graphical map, we can also see they are quite similar. So now we all know north is up, south is below, blue is sea, yellow or green are earth or mountain. So we often take it for granted, but actually many years ago it wasn't. Then if we search for IBS compliant dashboards, we can see most of them are quite similar. It's after the standardization by IBCS. So Unify is actually reporting language for displaying quantitative information. So it's including a lot of rules, and I think the most important ones. Let me try to pick. The most important ones are firstly this one. So if you look at the two tables, typically if we have a set of numbers showing, for example, sale by region, last year budget, let me open, okay. Last year actual, this year budget, this year actual, and we also have this year forecast. So forecast is a projection for the year based on the year-to-date actual. So we use the field areas to indicate different scenarios. So for actuals, we use the solid one. Why is that? Because it's already happened. It's filled. So if it's a budget, if it's a plan, it's waiting for being filled. That's why it's outlined, waiting for be filled. So forecast is semi-filled. So it's a projection based on year-to-date actual. So it's halfly filled, waiting to be fully filled. The next one, if you look at the table here again, okay. We have sales by year, by region. People are often confused whether we need to choose a horizontal column chart or vertical bar chart. So for time series, we need to use horizontal chart. And it's always from left to right. But for structure breakdown, for example, by region, we always use vertical bar chart so that we eventually, if we look at chart, we always know, oh, horizontal is about time, vertical is about structure. And also we need to show the comparison as mentioned previously. We need to show actual versus budget. Yeah. We need to show actual here versus last year's actual. Forecast versus budget. Absolute variance, relative variance, So here you can see we don't use color for decoration. We use color to convey message. Green is good, red is bad, blue is neutral. So often we put some highlight, we put some special indicator in the chart so that you can see here, highlight is neutral. That's why we use blue. So if the trend is good, it's green. If the trend is bad, it'll be yellow. All right. So with all the knowledge, you should be able to quickly grab the meaning of the chart. So here you can see it's actual by region. It's actual by month, by time, right? It's budget by region, budget by time, forecast by region, forecast by time. So we don't need to spend time to reorient the readers. What are those readers mean? They can immediately understand them. All right. The next one, conceptual rules. It's actually inspired by the consultant Barbara Minto from McKinsey. She called a famous pyramid principle. It's about how to tell a story in a meaningful and convincing way. So you see the structure is pretty much like a pyramid. After knowing your goals and audience, we use a typical 3 steps structure to introduce the message. We start to see something like what we know. So it's a situation, for example, our current year budget is 500 and why. And then we bring in the complication. So a complication is a gap between what we got and what we expected. So here you see we have a tension, we have a gap. And then we raise the question, what we need to do, how to achieve our budget. And eventually we answer the question by providing a proposal. And then we need to justify the message with arguments. So you see, we have the second layer arguments, and we have then the lower layer arguments. And all the components needs to be arranged in a so-called VC approach. And also we need to have a logical argument. They need to be either from inductive reasoning or deductive reasoning. We'll cover this later. And finally, we need to call to action. All right. So if you look at the principles, the steps in the C step, it's actually something quite similar to the pyramid principle. All right. Something important here is for any message we want to say, we need to move beyond just talking about what. So what is a detection? We better to also explain why is that. So it's an explanation. And even better, we need to suggest what we should do. So we need to move beyond detection to explanation, and better to provide suggestion. So when we introduce the message, then we provide the proposal. So the typical structure, as mentioned previously, we see the message, we provide the proposal directly, and then we provide the evidence to prove that. And finally, we summarize the we repeat the message again. So it's typically sandwich structure: message, evidence, and message again. And when we finish presentation, quite often the presenter will say, "Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention." That's not good. So the better way is you need to repeat your message. You need to call to action, and then it should be the audience saying thank you, not the presenter. Okay, so as I mentioned previously, after we see the message, we need to provide evidence. Here, the structure step is about how to organize the arguments. It's about the relations between arguments. Some important rules here are all the components, all the argument should be mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive. So what does this mean? Mutually exclusive means we shouldn't have overlapping element. Like here, Sweden, Denmark, Finland is part of Scandinavia, so we shouldn't have it. And also, all the components should be exhaustively should be collectively exhaustive. So for example, if we are talking about the options which are a combination of new and old products for old and new location. So 2 times 2 should be 4. So we need to talk about all. We shouldn't miss one. If we miss one, we will get questions and we don't have enough credibility. And finally, when we have the argument, we need to draw the conclusion from the arguments in a logical way. They should either be deductive reasoning or inductive reasoning. So deductive reasoning, for example, if we see a statement, all business analysts are good at data analysis, and then we have if we also believe in the second one, Sunny is a business analyst, then we can draw a conclusion. Sunny must be good at data analysis because we accept the first one and the second one. Then we can confidently draw a conclusion. So inductive is actually a summary based on all the observations below. So for example, if we say Sunny is good at data analysis, Paul is also good at analysis, Peter is also good at data analysis, they are all business analysts, then probably we can draw a conclusion. Most business analysts are good at data analysis. That's the logic arguments. So it's actually something from logic, from philosophy. And then finally, for reporting perspective, we need to visualize the structure. All right. So by now we have finished the 2 most complex one. So I'm hoping the rest will be easier. Express is about choosing the proper visuals. Is this good? It's a fancy one. Do you think it's good or bad? Okay, you can see my smiley. I'm crying. It's bad. Sorry. For example, so many people love pie chart, but pies are here to eat. not to express ideas. Why is that? Because pie chart can only show one dimension. So if it's showing, for example, 20%, 20% of the share, New Zealand is 20% of total. So it's just one data. We used so much ink to show one data. So if we want to see what is the current year's result as compared with the past 10 years, there's no way to show it. So it's better to just use simple bar chart or column chart, and then we can show all the historical comparison. Similar to a ring chart, never use them. And also, we shouldn't use a speedometer. So here we can see we're talking about the year-to-date performance versus budget. So why not show the variance by month so that we can view the pattern? We can see the historical development. we can also compare the difference between different countries. Here, we can't see anything. And then don't use traffic lights. People love traffic lights. It's also fancy. But why not? So traffic lights only show whether it's good or bad. Why not directly show good or bad and how good and how bad using simple bar chart? And often we can see people tend to choose a lot of fancy charts, but actually IBCS only recommends to use very few basic charts. They can cover 80% of business reporting scenarios. So no pie chart, no speedometers, no radar chart, no funnel chart. Right, next one, simplify. Simplify is not about simplify data. It's more about maximize data ink ratio. It's about removing chart drag. So for non-info ink, less is more. We need to remove all the background colors. We need to remove all the grid. We need to remove all the transitioning effect. Remove all decoration numbers. No grid lines. No vertical lines, because the alignment of number already have a visual alignment. After we simplified charts, we then can increase information density. The purpose of increasing information density is to allow comparison in one eye span to see the pattern, the trend, the correlation. How to do that? Often people put one large chart in one page. It's better to make it as small as possible, but still can be seen clearly. Then we can use the pressure space to put more charts. So for example, here we can compare the patterns between different products or brands. Don't only show the past 3 years. Why not showing the past 15 years? We can see the pattern. And don't only show numbers. Why not integrate chart into table? We can see whether it's good and whether it's bad and how good, how bad. If we want to have related charts, don't put them in different pages. Put them in one page so that we can look at them on one page. We can link them together. And the final step, check. Check is about avoid lie factor. What is lie factor? For example, here I have two charts. I should remove the y-axis. I keep them here is to show the trick. So you see the numbers are the same in these two charts, but the effect is quite different because the first one starts from 400. The second one starts from 0. So the second one is telling the truth. The first one isn't. It's a lie factor. Some interesting ways to avoid the lie factor. So always start with 0. The second one is a trap for most of the reporters. And by default, people draw charts according to the space they have, but actually the space should be assigned based on the data. If the data is bigger, we need to have a larger space to show the true length. We shouldn't clip the visual. We need to either show the true length or we need to use creative solutions to show the true dimensions. The different charts on the same page should be with the same scaling. If it's not possible, use a scaling indicator to show the different scaling. All right. So with all the knowledge, let's see some IBS compliant charts, and also to test whether we can easily recognize the pattern. So here, don't need to read all the details. So only look at the chart. Try to see if you understand what the chart is telling. So for me, it's about the actual by month versus last year because it's a field column. These are hatched column. They are forecasts compared with last year. And then we have absolute variance, which is actual or forecast compared with last year. So you see here the x-axis, it's also filled with light gray. It carries information as well. It means the benchmark is last year actual. And the top one is relative variance. It's about the percentage of the variance. You also see the width of the column. So here it's an absolute number. So we have the true width. But the first one is relative variance. Relative is a percentage. Then we don't have width. It's just a thin line. Well, they all have a head. We also put field one and hatched one to indicate whether it's actual or forecast. And also you can see we have highlights, we have comment, and at the top we have a message, and we have a title. And for anything in the message, we have the corresponding highlight here. So +4, +7. So this is a typical layout of IBCS recommended report. So we have message at the top. We have a title also at the top, but below message. And then we have visuals, and also we have highlights, we have comments. So the message is quoting the message highlighted in the visuals. Right. The second one is showing the probably by month or by year profit. So the field ones are historical actual. The outlined ones are the future budget. So it's busy. It's quite dense, right? But it's quite clear. And also you see why the chart for blame is much larger than rest. It's because the number is larger. So we should show the true length. So for example, here is 300. This one is about 100. Then this bar should be the triple length of this one. Okay. My last slide. So today we have covered what caused the challenges in business reporting, the inconsistent, inadequate, and misleading reports. We'll also talk about how IBCS tackled the challenges by standardization and more to accelerate report comprehension. We then talked about the success formula of IBCS and the outcomes. So I encourage you all to go to the website ibcs.com to learn IBCS. You can all register as a passive member, and you can download the latest version of the guide for free. And I hope you, when you go back, you can draw from your own experience. Think about how to improve business reporting by applying the best practice we talked today. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I believe this is the prepared speech you have done. Now we just enter the Q&A session. I already see there are 8 questions posted on the Slido board, which is awesome. And there are people who have upvoted the ones they want to get answered. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep. I can say it. Yep. So, yeah.
The first one. Can you explain how the success formula is applied in real world scenarios, like in New Zealand enhanced data visualization and storytelling?
Yep. So, to my best knowledge, it's quite new in New Zealand. So very few companies are using the best practice here. So I'm not sure whether anyone is using Power BI to produce reports. So the most famous add-in one is from Zebra BI. So even Microsoft is using Zebra BI. So all the visuals from the Zebra BI are IBCS certified. So IBCS is certifying companies and analysts and consultants. So if a software company can use their product to produce IBCS certified visuals, they can be certified. So to my best knowledge, we have some very large companies using IBCS certified software in their company. Like so I know that those global companies, Philips, SAP, and even within Microsoft. So in New Zealand, I know it's quite new. So that's why I think it's a good opportunity for you to dive into it if you have the opportunity to either produce reports for your company or if you participate in the reporting project. Right.
Oh, thank you. I think I found the page that listed all IBCS certified software. I will put it in the chat, and that includes the separate BI that you mentioned, Colin. Cool.
Yeah, cool.
Okay,
Thank you.
next question is about how would you convince the business and people to learn and adopt IBCS standard?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, it's an interesting one. So typically we show the before and after. So if you remember the color I talked, so there are some challenges, especially, for example, the color one. We encourage people not using color for decoration. So color should carry information. So typically we just use gray or dark. So color is like a spice. So if we have a lot of spice, so we just don't see the effect. So if we just have a little salt, then if we add a little spice, we can see the difference. So I think the most of companies are using, for example, corporate color to produce charts. So you can see, for example, PwC, interestingly, their colors, their corporate color themes are red. So if you look at their annual report, so for all the colors, for example, you can see all the colors are in red. So the immediate impression is that there is something wrong. So red means alert. So yeah, that's a typical scenario, a typical challenge. So so the best way to convince is to show before and after, so that you can move bit by bit, and you can see the difference.
Yeah, cool. I think it's definitely true that you need to have people to see the change themselves and then
Yep.
feel the positive impact on the change. Then they might take action to
Yep.
follow those standards. That's great. And next one, for someone starting out as a business analyst, which data visualization tools would you recommend?
I always think number one, still Excel. So although for myself, I use typically Power BI, but I used Excel for more than 20 years. So I know the power of Excel, and I know it's always there. So Excel, Power BI, and Tableau. So I did mention that IBS is platform independent. So it's not tied with any software. So it's a practice. So you need to factor in the practice into whatever visualization tool you are using. Right. So analysis tool, Excel, Power BI, Tableau. plus platform independent IBCS rules and all similar best practice. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's quite similar to the BPMN standards, right? That BAs normally use for mapping out the business processes. It's the same thing as a standard that you can apply and use, but the tools depend, like kind of dictate how you can implement those standards in your kind of mapping.
I think for the in the world of business analysts, right? So BPMN is an example. So it's actually platform independent.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I strongly echo with you regarding using the Excel because I have been working as a BA for more than 3 years, but I haven't got any situation that I have to use Power BI. So most of my work can be done using Excel if I have to analyze the data. So definitely resonate with that comment. Next question is, I think you probably already touched on this throughout your presentation. The question is, what specific challenges does the IBCS aim to address? Business report communication, and how does it help improve clarity and consistency? You want to skip this one, or do you have any extra things to add on to it?
I think I mentioned the color, I mentioned the pattern. So color and pattern are actually not something prescribed. It's actually trying to use people's pattern recognition capability. So the intention is that it should be something, once you look at it, you immediately know what's it. I think the most controversial ones are data density. So often we hear people say this chart is too busy. You need to make it simpler. So think about this way. So if we say the chart is too busy, so we shouldn't just think about how to reduce content. We should think about how to improve understanding. So it's actually a confusion between content and the forms. We shouldn't remove data. We should remove the unnecessary decoration, the unnecessary component. So that's one. And often we feel we need to we need to reduce information so that we can understand it better. No, it's wrong. Often we need to add information to help people understand. So for example, if you look at just two numbers, you actually got nothing. It's just two numbers. But if you add the comparison, if you add the so the two numbers, for example, is this year's actual and the next year's budget. So there's nothing. If you add all the historical actuals, if you also add the for example the competitors' performance, then you can do some interesting comparison. You can see a story. So this is something called adding information, adding details to help people understand more. Quite often people want to make the content less. So that's wrong.
Yeah, I think it's very counterintuition, right? Sometimes people want to reduce and make it shorter or more concise, but it didn't convey enough message to help people understand. So that could be a problem. Right, next one is in data visualization, how do we balance buying visuals? Yeah, I think you already touched on this by answering the previous question. Density, but add enough information.
Remove non-info carrying ink, but increase info and make info correlated so that you can see the pattern, you can do the comparison. So in essence, all the analysis is actually about compared with what, at what rate. It's not about just showing the number. It's about showing the comparison and
Trend.
the degree of variance.
Yep. The insights, actionable insights.
Yep.
And this one, I think you already touched on as well. What tips or IBCS guidance do you have for data storytelling to ensure we capture and share compelling information with our audience?
Yep. I think I've covered after you standardize all the components, then you have quite good materials. Then you use Barbara Minto's pyramid principle to organize your ideas in a structured way. And then you can tell a story in a meaningful way. So quite often people talking about ideas, which is to mimic the way they were doing analysis. But once you finished analysis, you need to tell the story in the different direction. You need to tell a story from top-down approach. So message first, and then supporting evidence, and then repeat message. Don't talk about the evidence first and then draw a conclusion. That's the wrong way.
Totally agree. Last one is what other common visualization mistakes business reporting and how to avoid them?
Yeah, I've covered most of them. Don't use low dimensional charts, pie chart, speedometers, because they used too many, they used too much space and too much ink to show just simple number. We need to use the same space and more and the same ink to show more data, to show more relevant and correlated data.
Oh, I think that's all. And last but not least, we appreciate your sharing tonight, Colin, and I think it's very informative and insightful. A lot of things to take on and digest. So highly recommend you guys to check the IBCS official website and download a copy of the standard and read it yourself. So thank you so much for your guys' time tonight, and especially thanks to Eddie and Colin today. And hopefully to see you guys in our next event in Auckland, which will be an in-person event, and we're still organizing it. So more details will be released at a later point, getting close to the event. Thank you so much, guys. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
See you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.